Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Today we look at sport.
And we talk to this man, Justin Fashanu, a professional footballer.
We all played different sports at school.
That's right. I played rugby at school. I didn't like it. I wish I'd played golf.
When I was at school, I played baseball. I wish I'd played tennis.
I did play tennis at school, and I won the school cup.
Congratulations.
Well done. I played rugby at school. I wish I'd played golf. I wish I had played golf. I wish I'd played golf.
I played baseball at school. I wish I'd played tennis.
Which sports did you play at school?
Rugby, cricket and basketball.
Tennis, netball, hockey, gymnastics, swimming.
High jumping, and I reached a county standard in that sport. I also played hockey, football and rugby.
I didn't play sports at school.
Which sports do you wish you'd played at school?
I wish I'd played tennis at school.
I wish I'd tried fencing, archery, sub-aqua diving.
I wish I'd played cricket at school.
I wish that I'd had the opportunity earlier in life to do more climbing.
I wish I could see the game. I can't see anything.
What a shame.
We're too small. I wish we were bigger.
I know, it's a pity. But I have an idea.
Hey, who are you?
I am here to give you 3 wishes.
3 wishes? Great. Well, I wish I could see the game.
Easy.
Great. But I wish we were a bit nearer.
Easy.
What are you doing here?
I wish you hadn't done that.
Don't worry. Oh, I wish I hadn't done that either.
We're too small. I wish we were bigger. I can't see anything. I wish I could see the game. That little boy was watching other people play sport. He was a spectator. We call a lot of spectators a crowd. Now, at a football match...
Wait a minute. What kind of football? There's American football, rugby football, soccer...
Oh, I mean soccer. We often call soccer football.
Ah. You were saying?
Yes. At a football match, the spectators go to watch 2 teams who play against each other. The winner is the team that scores more goals.
Or points, if it's American football or rugby.
Yes. The other team is the loser. And if both teams have the same number of goals, or points, it's a draw.
In winter, the English national sport is football. That's association football or soccer. Justin Fashanu is an English professional footballer. Here is how he describes his long and varied career in football.
When I was 15 and a half, I left school and I joined Norwich City Football Club in the First Division. I made my debut at 17.
17-year-old Justin Fashanu has only been a professional since Christmas Day, but this afternoon he gets his first game for Norwich City in the First Division.
My first appearance was against a team called West Bromwich Albion in the First Division, and they had 3 other black players playing for their team, and at that stage there was probably about 6 black professional footballers in the First Division, and so this was quite a unique thing in football to have 4 players on the same football field.
Davis. Peters came in.
It was fun. It was a big crowd, 25,000 people in Norwich, and I was playing with people who were heroes and role models and things. And we drew 2-2. I didn't manage to score, but it was fun. A lot of fun.
Fashanu! So close to making a name for himself in his first appearance.
I then moved to Nottingham Forest for £1 million at 19. And then I played 18, 19 times for England under-21 team. And we won, we're the first actually England team to win the European under-21 championships. I then managed to win an England B cap, and I was on the substitutes bench for a World Cup match against Romania.
And Iordănescu again. And the free kick given against Watson.
I then moved to Notts County in the First Division, Southampton and Brighton. I then had a knee injury which forced me out of the game for 4 years. In that time I went to America and rehabilitated my knee in Los Angeles and then Canada. Managed to do that, came back here and resumed my career at Torquay United.
Justin talked a lot about his early career. He talked about some things that he managed to do and some things that he didn't manage to do, starting with his first match.
I didn't manage to score. He didn't get a goal in his first match. I managed to win an England B cap. That means he was chosen to play for the England B team, the second team. I moved to Nottingham Forest for £1 million at 19. A lot of money. I then had a knee injury, and that injury kept him out of football for 4 years.
Justin is now a player and assistant manager at Torquay United, a small club in the southwest of England. What does he think of the club?
It's a small club. It has very few supporters. 1,800-900 would be the hardcore. We're a long way away from anywhere, so all the games we have to travel to away. It's quite a long journey, and it's a lot different to what I've been used to, but I'm experiencing managing here, and I'm experiencing dealing with trying to put a successful team onto the field without having lots of money and without having the luxuries that go with being a professional sportsman. So it's quite a culture shock.
Well played. Free kick there. Listen, you got a free kick because you got in front of him. Well done.
The players at this club are fabulous people. A lot of them are young, and it's a pleasure working with them. The only downside of that is that we've got probably a little bit of an imbalance of having too many young players who don't have the experience to help each other when you go through bad times. And so we're tending to lose a lot more games than we really should do because of lack of experience. I wish that the support for the team was more passionate and knowledgeable as well, because we have a very young team here because of the finances of a small club like Torquay. People have to be a little bit patient because we haven't got the finished article. We've got kids learning their trade, and it becomes very daunting for these kids playing at home, which it shouldn't be. We should be able to play at home and really express ourselves and enjoy playing at home. So I wish that people were a little bit more tolerant, but I think that's society now. I think that everybody wants a winner and they want it now.
Justin talked about two groups of people at the club.
The players, that's the team. And the supporters, that's the people who come to watch their team.
This is what Justin said about the players.
It's a pleasure working with them. He likes working with his team.
This is what he said about the supporters.
I wish that the support for the team was more passionate. He'd like stronger, louder support from the supporters.
Those were some of the things that Justin wishes were different at his present club. What regrets does he have about his whole career? Did he do some things that he wishes he hadn't done? Are there things that he didn't do that he wishes he had done?
I wish I'd won a full England cap and some more trophies. I think that would have been a highlight in my career and something that's probably has been missing. I wish that I hadn't moved to Nottingham Forest for £1 million quite as quickly, because at that time there was one or two other offers that would have been put to me, which probably would have been a better option for me, which would have changed my career. I wish that I hadn't been injured because it was at such a crucial time in my career. And I think the last thing that I probably would have changed was that I would have been a little bit more disciplined and taking it a little bit more seriously, because everything had gone so well for me fairly easily that I didn't realise that the hardest thing was staying there, not getting there.
We all have regrets, even successful professional footballers.
That's right. Here are some of the things that Justin regrets.
I wish I'd won a full England cap. That means I wish I'd played for the first team, the full England team. I wish I hadn't moved to Nottingham Forest for £1 million quite so quickly. I wish that I hadn't been injured.
Today we met Justin Fashanu, a professional footballer with some regrets about his past career.
We wish him the best of luck. Hello.
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 Today we talk about banks and money.
And we meet this man, Chris Bailey, who works at the Bank of England.
Banks and money. What do you use your bank for?
I use the bank for paying in my salary each month.
I use it to cash my checks, basically. That's really all I use it for.
I never go into a bank. I simply use it as a method of storing my money and drawing it out.
I use a bank for my checking and my savings accounts.
I personally would be very happy if I never had to walk into a bank again in my life. I'd much rather keep my money in a tin trunk underneath my bed.
I've just opened an account at my local bank here in London. I'm waiting for a checkbook. Instead, I got a letter from the bank this morning. Dear Mr. Dutcher, thank you for opening an account with us. Unfortunately, your checkbook might be delayed. Wonderful. Your checkbook might be delayed. Might be delayed. Perhaps it will be late.
Can I help you?
Yes. I'd like £1 million to be transferred from my current account to my deposit account.
I'm sorry, I'm very busy.
Are you going to transfer the money?
Of course not. You haven't got £1 million.
In that case, I'd like to close my account.
Fine. No problem. Goodbye. Did you hear that? He wanted me to transfer £1 million to his deposit account.
Yes, that's Mr. Higgins. He's the bank's biggest customer.
Oh, no. Mr. Higgins, come back.
He was richer than he looked. That customer had 2 bank accounts. He had a current account. That's the account you use a checkbook with. It's also called a checking account. He also had a deposit account. That's an account which pays you interest on your savings. It's also called a savings account. The customer wanted a rather special service from the bank.
I'd like £1 million to be transferred from my current account to my deposit account. To be transferred.
And Kevin wants something from his bank.
I'd like a checkbook to be sent to me immediately. I said I'd like a checkbook to be sent to me immediately. I told the bank that I wanted a checkbook to be sent to me immediately, but the letter says it might be delayed. I wonder why.
Well, your references have to be checked.
Do they? Oh.
Perhaps it's just a problem with the machine that prints the checkbooks.
What sort of problem?
Well, the machine might be broken.
Do you think so?
Well...
Yes, that must be the reason.
Oh.
Your references have to be checked. Your references have to be checked.
The machine might be broken. The machine might be broken. Britain's central bank is called the Bank of England. Chris Bailey works at the Bank of England, and he's going to tell us about the work that is done by the bank.
The Bank of England is Britain's central bank. Every country has a central bank. We are the government's bank, and we are the issuers of the money, of the notes that circulate in Britain. Some countries have independent central banks where, by constitution or by law, the central bank is set up separately from the government. But in this country, the Bank of England is owned by the government. They own all our shares. We are part of the government team. So we give advice to the Treasury and to our Chancellor of the Exchequer and to the Prime Minister on monetary policy, what would be an appropriate policy, how fast to let the money supply grow. Once the elected politicians, once our democratic government have reached policy decisions based on our advice, we then carry out those policies.
One of the main functions of the Bank of England is to print and issue banknotes. How is that done?
The printing of banknotes is a very complex function. We have to be sure that our notes are as secure against counterfeiting and forgery as they possibly can be. So we want to use the latest printing techniques that are available. We reissue the currency notes about every 10 to 15 years in Britain. If we didn't do that, there's a risk that notes could easily be forged because printing technologies change. We need to be ahead of the counterfeiters. For example, one of the problems which all central banks face these days is that of the colour copier machine. Notes might be forged on a colour copier simply by putting them into the machine and people having a go. We keep ahead of that, partly because of the very complex paper we use, which is not at all like copier machine paper, and partly by the intense patterns and colour combinations in the banknotes, which make it very difficult for a copying machine to reproduce them accurately. We have to be ahead of the technology, which means we have to redesign the product every 10 or 15 years.
Has the public's use of banknotes changed?
The use that the public make of paper money is rather less today than it was, say, 20 or 30 years ago. Typically, a man or woman working in a factory today will have their salary paid to them by a cheque. Whereas 20 years ago, probably somebody came around and gave them an envelope with banknotes inside it. That has changed. People now, when they go shopping, don't pay large amounts of cash across the counter. They use a credit card, or perhaps they use a cheque. So people can economise on banknotes. We print as many banknotes as the public want to use, but the relationship between the amount of banknotes we need to print and the amount of money the public can spend has changed.
Chris Bailey explained that the Bank of England is the government's bank.
The bank gives financial advice to the government and then carries out the government's financial policies.
He also talked about one of the other main jobs of the Bank of England. It prints all the banknotes. And it has to protect the public against forgery. That's when false banknotes are produced by criminals. This is what Chris said.
Notes could be forged, and people use some quite simple methods to do this. Notes might be forged on a colour copier. That's a colour photocopier.
The Bank of England isn't an ordinary bank. You can't open a bank account there. Well, you can't unless you work there. So what banking services does the Bank of England provide for the people who do work there, its staff?
The services that the bank provides to its staff customers are the same as those provided by a commercial bank. Cash can be drawn out across a counter. Cash can be drawn out through the automatic teller machines, which commercial banks, of course, have on the outside of their buildings. Foreign exchange can be bought, either foreign exchange notes or travellers' cheques. Bills can be paid through banks. It's possible to have your utility bill paid, electricity or gas or telecommunications bills. These can be paid through banks. Taxes can be paid through banks. The Bank of England provides all these services to its staff, just as commercial banks provide them to men and women in general in Britain.
Good morning. Good morning. Can I change these dollars into pounds, please? Certainly. 20, 40, 50.
Exchange rate's 1.6.
All right.
There's £31.25.
That's fine.
There's a £2 commission charge for that. How would you like your money?
In fives, please?
Certainly. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. It's 29.25.
Thank you. I also have this international money order. Can I pay it into my current account?
Yeah, is it in sterling or in dollars?
It's in sterling.
Yeah, you can take it to any one of the cashiers.
Fine, thanks.
Okay.
There's been a revolution in commercial banking in Britain over the last 20 years. Indeed, a revolution in commercial banking in many parts of the world. Of course, one thing that has changed in commercial banking is the technology. In addition to those technological changes, there's much more competition in banking these days. Nowadays, if you go to a bank and you have a checking account, the bank will probably pay you interest on that checking account because it wants your savings. 20 years ago, that would probably not have been the case. So it's a much more competitive and user-friendly banking system today.
You can only have an account at the Bank of England if you work there.
And if you work there, it's just like an ordinary bank.
With all the usual services.
Cash can be drawn out. You can take money from your account. Foreign exchange can be bought. You can buy dollars, pesetas, lira, yen. Bills can be paid through the bank. And taxes can be paid through the bank.
Listen again to some of the things that were said in the bank.
Good morning. Can I change these dollars into pounds, please?
Exchange rate's 1.6. There's a £2 commission charge for that. How'd you like your money?
In fives, please.
Today, we met Chris Bailey from the Bank of England.
What's that, David?
It's a cheque from my aunt. I'll buy you both dinner tonight.
Great.
Thank you.
But I must get to my bank before it closes. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Hello.
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 Today, we look at the news.
And how it's reported on television and radio.
And we talked to this woman, Carol Walker, who is a news reporter on British television.
Good evening. Here is the news. Today, the President said that he was very pleased with the economic situation. Princess Bettina insisted that she had no plans to marry. And the coach of the US basketball team admitted that he felt very disappointed with last night's result. Those were news reports about the President, a princess, and the coach of the US basketball team. What did those people actually say? And how did I report it?
I am very pleased with the economic situation.
He said that he was very pleased with the economic situation.
No, no, no. I have no plans to marry.
She insisted that she had no plans to marry.
Yes, it's true. I feel very disappointed.
He admitted that he felt very disappointed.
How do you get your news? From television, radio, or newspapers?
I get my news from newspapers and the television.
I listen to the radio in the morning and the evening.
I get my news basically a lot from the radio. I don't watch a lot of television, and I don't have time to read the newspaper.
I get my news via satellite television.
I get my news by watching the television news each day.
Hi, welcome to Monster News. Today, I'm going to talk to one of the most famous monsters in the world. Hi, I'm Edwina Doom from Monster News. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions? Do you have any plans to make a new film? Who's your new girlfriend? And why don't you like answering questions?
Now then, did you want to ask me any questions?
What questions did the reporter ask the monster?
She asked him if he had any plans to make a new film. She asked him who his new girlfriend was. She asked him why he didn't like answering questions.
Television news needs pictures and sound. For any news story, there'll be a camera crew and usually a reporter who is on the spot to explain what is happening. Carol Walker is a BBC television news reporter. Let's find out how a story is put together and what the difficulties are.
Basically, the way we normally work is I will go out with a camera crew to film interviews, street scenes, pictures of the disaster, pictures of people shooting at one another, whatever it may be. We take the pictures back and I'll work with an editor and record my voice track. The editor will put together the pictures, perhaps an excerpt of an interview. And that basic process is the same whether I'm reporting on a British rail story in London or a war anywhere overseas.
We're going to have to keep it quite tight because we've only got, because it's short bulletins, we've only, they're talking about 1:10. Okay, can I just have a look at the pictures we've got of the 225s?
Aerial shots from the cab. Shots from the cab, we've got some aerials.
It'd be nice to start with some of this, wouldn't it, really?
Yeah.
What are the difficulties of the job?
Well, the difficulties vary according to what the story is and where the story is. Often it's a case of battling against the authorities who don't want you to find out what you want to find out.
Yeah, I did speak to her earlier, but I just had another query that I wanted to kind of clarify.
What are the ways to avoid bias and stay objective?
I think that to avoid bias, what you have to do is to stand back a little bit, to try to approach everything that anybody says to you with a certain degree of scepticism, and to try, wherever possible, to check it out and to get the other point of view, and not to necessarily believe everything people tell you, to always be aware that they may very well have a hidden agenda behind what they're telling you, and they may be exaggerating something for political reasons.
Carol works with a camera crew, a team of people who accompany her when she's reporting.
They film interviews and street scenes.
Carol may have to interview a politician or report a terrible accident or disaster.
She's now going to talk about one particular news story, a plane crash in Holland. Here's how she reported it on the television news.
Workers at the site of the crash found the flight data recorder buried beneath the collapsed concrete of the apartment block. It is severely damaged and burned and has been taken to the Farnborough Accident Investigation Centre to be examined by specialists. The cargo plane's full load of fuel kept the huge fire burning here for 3 hours. The flight data recorder is designed to withstand only about half an hour of intense heat. We had heard from firemen at the scene of the crash that the flight data recorder had been found, and the Dutch Aviation Authority subsequently confirmed that. These pictures show the El Al cargo plane arriving at Schiphol shortly before its last ill-fated flight. An airport spokesman has confirmed that in July it had a fire in the number 2 engine. Emergency services were alerted as it landed here on 3 engines, but the fire was put out by the plane's own extinguishers. One senior Dutch air traffic controller had plotted the entire route of the plane. He was able to tell me at exactly what time the pilot had maydaid the emergency. He told me exactly the advice he'd given to the pilot. He told me what the pilot had done to try to avert the crash. And he told me why the plane had actually crashed where it had. Air traffic controllers have already given crash investigators some details of that final flight, number LY1862, which lasted less than 15 minutes. At 6,000 feet as it headed out along the coast, the Israeli pilot put out a mayday call, reporting fire in the number 3 engine. The radar map charts his downward spiral, circling twice as he struggled to control the plane. Air traffic controllers advised the El Al pilot to head for Schiphol's main runway, where a strong headwind might have helped him. Instead, he went for the closest runway, where a tailwind made his task more difficult. But by that stage, it is debatable whether anything could have saved the plane from crashing. Other authorities, for example, the city authorities from Amsterdam, the mayor gave a press conference, and we asked why, for example, initially the death toll had been put at in excess of 200. It was later revised to about 80. And the mayor said that it was because it was very difficult to have accurate records in that area where there was a large and partly illegal immigrant community. At the centre of the crash, the search for further clues is taking second place to the efforts to recover what remains of the dead before Friday's deadline when the site will be cleared. Experts here accept this will make the task of the crash investigators more difficult. Carol Walker, BBC News, Amsterdam.
That was a difficult story to report. Carol interviewed air traffic controllers and people involved in the rescue operation. They were very concerned to find the flight data recorder. This is what Carol found out.
We had heard that the flight data recorder had been found.
And what did the air traffic controller say?
He told me the advice he had given to the pilot. He advised the pilot to head for the main runway.
Reporting about the Amsterdam air disaster was a disturbing job for Carol. So, after all that, does she like her work?
I think I enjoy the unpredictability of it. I think I enjoy the fact that even if I'm having a rather boring day in the office, things can happen very suddenly and I can be travelling somewhere halfway around the world. I think also you get, if you like, a front row seat on events which are shaping history, world events of enormous importance, and a chance to actually be there when those events are happening and to talk to the people who are making history is an extraordinary opportunity.
This is what Carol enjoys about her work.
She likes having a front row seat. She reports on world events of enormous importance. And she interviews people who are making history.
Today, we met Carol Walker, an international television news reporter.
And she told us what her working life was like.
That's all for now. Goodbye.
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 Hello.
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 Today, helping people.
We look at how to deal with people.
And how to solve their problems.
And we meet this woman, Tina Saunier, who works at Universal Studios in Florida.
I had a problem this morning.
That's right. You were late for work.
I know. My grandmother telephoned me. She wasn't feeling very well.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And she needed my help. She wanted me to go shopping with her.
So, what did you do?
I took her shopping in my car. The trouble is, I nearly had a crash.
And what if you had had a crash?
What do you mean?
What would we have done here if you'd had an accident?
Look, I had to help my grandmother. If I hadn't taken her shopping, she wouldn't have had any food.
Well, Natalie went to help her grandmother, and she was late for work. What would you have done in her position?
I would have done exactly the same.
I would have phoned the school to tell them I was going to be late.
I would certainly have taken my grandmother to the shops. I think people do have obligation to their relatives, and particularly elderly relatives.
I would have explained to my grandmother that I had to be on time.
I would have rung the office, made some excuse, and taken my grandmother to the shops.
I'd have taken my grandmother to the shops.
This is a job for Mighty Man.
What's the matter?
My washing machine has gone wrong.
Oh, dear. I'm sorry to hear that. But don't worry. I'll soon mend it.
But...
It's all right. No job is too hard for me. Do you know something?
What?
If I'd known you had a problem, I would have brought my tools.
Oh.
There you are. Now, what would you have done if I hadn't arrived?
I would have asked her to mend it.
Oh, dear.
The man didn't know there was a problem, so he didn't bring any tools with him.
If I'd known. If I had known. If I'd known, I would have brought my tools. If I'd known, I would have brought my tools.
The man thought he'd done a very good job.
What would you have done if I hadn't arrived? What would you have done if I hadn't arrived?
And the woman replied, I would have asked her to mend it. I would have asked her to mend it.
Universal Studios in Florida has thousands of visitors every day. Tina Saunier works in guest relations, a department which is there to help visitors. Let's find out what happens at Universal Studios and what they do in guest relations.
Universal Studios Florida is a theme park, and it's also the largest working motion picture studio outside of California. Here we have many rides and shows based on different movies or television series that may now be in progress. And we also do a number of productions, such as commercials and movies, right here on our backlot.
You're going to have a lot of fun today, so let's say smile. Okay. Here you are.
Our guest relations department is set up to assist our guests with whatever needs they may have throughout their day here at Universal. We do everything from warming baby bottles to assisting guests that may get sick throughout the day, giving out information, whether it be foreign language information or just assisting people with planning their day throughout the park.
To go to ET, right now we are right here. All you do is walk up Hollywood Boulevard, sir. Just make a right at the stop sign and continue walking past Mel's Diner to our World Expo area.
Okay.
And ET is a very good place to start.
Okay, thank you very much.
I also try to find out from our guests where they're from, if this is their first trip or their second trip. Usually if it's their first trip, then they need to get familiarized with our studio, and so I suggest ways that they can familiarize themselves by either taking our production tram tour or by walking a certain path that will give them a bird's eye view of everything that they need to do or may want to see.
Down there, our production tour is a 15-minute informational tour, and so what it'll basically do is it'll take you around the studio and just show you where everything is. It's a good way to start your day, too.
I think we'll start there.
Okay, thank you very much. You're welcome. Have a good time.
We have guests here who lose a variety of things. The most common objects that they lose are sunglasses and cameras.
All of those?
No, I've done 3. We've only got 3 left.
Okay. That's right.
During the summer, a lot of people lose their hats also. And of course, they lose their children, which is a big thing.
License, no money.
No money?
I got a credit card and it's got a driver's license.
Okay. I'll take that in.
Also, a lot of people, especially men, lose their wallets. A lot of our rides are very turbulent, and they'll go on the ride, and they won't notice it until they get to the cafeteria or a restaurant that they want to go to lunch at and say, oh my goodness, my wallet's gone. We do everything. Anything we can do to assist our guests, we do that so that they can have a great time here.
People seem to lose a lot of things when they visit Universal Studios. Sunglasses,
cameras,
hats,
wallets,
and children.
At guest relations, Tina and her colleagues often have to deal with people who don't speak English. There are also many visitors who are deaf. What do they do when there are communication problems like that?
We get a great many people here from foreign countries who do not speak English. And it's very hard sometimes to communicate with these people, but oftentimes people can speak just very few words of English, or we can speak, not just myself, but other people that work in the guest relations department here can speak a few words. So there seems to be always someone available to speak, whether it's a few words of French or Spanish or Portuguese or whatever it may be, to be able to assist that guest.
I'm looking for this one in Spanish.
Spanish?
Yes.
I can get that for you. Let's stay right there.
All right.
Do you need just one?
It's possible two.
Dos?
Yes.
There you are.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a good day. But also, very often it's gestures. It's, well, you know, how can I help you? I don't know. Maybe, you know, come with me. Is this what you want? Pointing.
No Chinese.
Yeah.
No Chinese.
No Chinese. Sorry. We also have a great number of people here that are deaf. And we all don't know sign language. And so sometimes it comes down to them writing down what they need, and we, you know, write back to them.
Tina mentioned two methods that people can use to deal with communication problems.
Gestures and sign language. Two ways of communicating without speaking.
Tina often has to deal with visitors who have special disabilities. In the next part of the interview, she talks about a visitor who suffered from MS, multiple sclerosis, and we hear about the special arrangements that were made.
Often we have guests who know that they're coming on vacation, and they'll either write us or they'll call us, and they'll tell us their special circumstances and ask if there's anything unique that we can do for them. Such as one time we had a mother, a lady, she was very young, very attractive lady, about 33, and she had two small children. Her husband called me in advance and said, look, you know, my wife has been diagnosed with MS, and we don't want our children to know. They're 8 and 9 years old, and I don't want my wife to sit in a wheelchair because I don't want my kids to realize that there's something wrong here. And so what we did is we simply told them to come to guest relations, and that we would assist them by giving them a backdoor card where she would not have to sit in a wheelchair. Also, what we did for that family was, in this case, because she couldn't wait in lines and heat exhaustion was a big problem for them, we suggested that they split their day so that if she needed to go back to the hotel, she could and come back that night. They came at a time of year where they could do that because we had very extended hours at that time.
So, the woman was able to rest and come back to Universal Studios later in the evening. But what would have happened if she hadn't come at that time of year?
We would have done the same thing as far as the VIP pass. However, she wouldn't have been able to fully enjoy her day here, go back to the hotel, and then come back that night because there would have been no night events to come back to.
Tina Saunier meets all kinds of people with all kinds of problems. Let's finish with Tina telling us what is the hardest, or, as she says, the toughest thing about her job.
The toughest part about working in guest relations is being yelled at relentlessly. Oh, gosh. People, sometimes, I have not always been in guest relations, and it's very hard to sometimes listen to some of the things that people have to say to you because they are just so frustrated and they are so mad and they're going to get it out of their system and they don't care what they're calling you or what they're saying. This is how they feel. And you have to stand there and listen. And it used to be very, very hard, but I think because I'm becoming more accustomed to it, it's okay now. I understand that they're just venting and I know not to take it personally. But it's hard. It's very hard.
Poor Tina. People shouting and getting angry at her all day long.
Yes, and they're supposed to be on holiday.
Imagine what they must be like when they're not having a good time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Hello.
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 Today, we look at antiques.
Like this one.
And we go to this place. Christie's, an auction house in London.
This used to belong to my grandmother, and I think it belonged to her grandmother before that. Now it belongs to me. I inherited it. It's an antique, and it's quite valuable, but to be honest, I don't like it, and I don't know what to do with it. What do you think?
Well, if you don't like it, sell it.
Yes, I wouldn't keep it unless I liked it.
I don't know.
What would your sister have done if she had inherited it?
Oh, she would have kept it. That's the problem. My family thinks it's very beautiful. They'll be very unhappy if I sell it.
So, should Kevin keep it or sell it? What would you do if you inherited something you didn't like?
I would probably sell it.
I think I would keep it.
If I inherited a valuable antique, I would definitely keep it.
I would sell it.
I think I would keep it unless I was particularly desperate for money for some reason.
If I inherited a valuable antique, I would certainly keep it. If it had been in my family, I would want to keep it in my family.
What do you think of this?
I think it's very expensive.
Expensive? But it's a work of art.
It's too expensive. I won't buy it unless you reduce the price.
Reduce the price? Never.
Okay, goodbye.
Wait. What would you do if I reduced the price to £9,000?
I'd say it's still too expensive. Goodbye.
Stop! What if I reduced it to £8,000?
No.
7,000.
Now that's very nice. How much is that?
No.
The customer won't buy the sculpture unless the artist reduces the price. Unless. If the artist doesn't reduce the price, the customer won't buy it.
I still don't know what to do with my work of art. Here's the advice that David and Natalie gave me.
If you don't like it, sell it. If you don't like it, sell it.
I wouldn't keep it unless I liked it. I wouldn't keep it unless I liked it.
Then Natalie asked me about my sister.
What would she have done if she had inherited it? What would she have done if she had inherited it?
She would have kept it. That's my problem. My family all like it. They'll be very unhappy if I sell it.
Kevin, you must find out how much it's worth.
Yes, how do I do that?
Take it to Christie's.
Christie's is an auction house in London. They auction paintings and antiques. Mark Poltimore is a director of Christie's. He's responsible for 19th century paintings. Here's how Mark describes the work of Christie's.
Christie's is an auction house which was founded in 1766, so we have a lot of tradition in the company. Our main role is to act as an agent for our sellers, or our vendors, as we call them. You can bring in any item of antiquity here, from dolls to pictures to silver, furniture. There's, I think, 77 different types of category you can bring in. A lot of people write to us. Out of the blue, they send a photograph of the object in question. And they send it to us, and we give them an informal valuation. The second method is we have many clients coming into our reception area. And they bring their objects to our reception, again, for an informal valuation.
Victoria Bridges. Hi, Mark, it's Jo at the front counter. I've got Victoria Bridges. She's got a 19th century painting, if you'd like to come down. OK, great. Thank you very much. Bye. If you'd like to go and wait by room number 5, Mark will be down in a second.
By and large, I can judge a painting within a few seconds. I think, like all these things, one's first reaction, one's gut reaction, is often the correct reaction. Well, first impression is wonderful. It's by this artist called Ruben Santoro, who's an Italian artist. And I think he was born in the 1850s, and he died in Naples in 1942. He specialised rarely on these sort of architectural views. And here we have, I think, a beautiful view of Venice. And I have to say, it is one of the nicest I've seen for a long time. What I like particularly is the little blob of red there, and the flowers there, and the yellow there. It's wonderfully colourful. And I think it's commercial, not only for Italians, but also Americans or anybody who's been on holiday to Venice. It just sums it up beautifully. Have you ever sort of wondered what it might be worth?
No, I have no idea. I was hoping you could tell me.
Well, there have been a number on the market, and I would expect this could make at least £8,000 to £12,000.
Really?
Could make more if we can get the right Italians and Americans in. Possibly sort of up to 20,000.
Goodness.
But it's a wonderful picture, and it's so unexpected to see it.
How can you tell that it's authentic?
Well, there are a number of reasons. First of all, the style is absolutely typical, and the quality is all there. I mean, this is quite a difficult picture to copy because it's so sort of intricate. But perhaps more importantly is this signature here. And if you look through the magnifying glass, you can see that the signature very much is part of the picture, not sort of on top of the varnish.
Oh, yes.
And this is a good indication. If it hadn't been right, I'm afraid its value would have been considerably less. You could have sold it as a decorative piece, but that brings the value down to perhaps £1,000.
So what's the next step?
Well, if you wanted us to sell it for you, we would include it in our next important sale of 19th century pictures in 3 months' time. And our terms would be 10% commission plus various other charges, including photograph and insurance charges. We take a commission from this. So we take a basic commission of 10%. Unless you are a trader, you will get if you're in the business, you get a commission reduction of up to 4%. So the basic commission is 10%, but if you're a trader, it will be 6%.
What did Mark say about the signature on the painting?
If it hadn't been right, its value would have been less.
The auction house takes a commission from the vendor, that is to say, some money from the person selling. How much do they take?
We take a basic commission of 10%, unless you are a trader. If you're a trader, you pay a smaller commission.
Now let's see what happens at an auction. First of all, how fast is everything done? What is the pace of an auction?
The pace is quite quick. If it's too slow, people get bored. It all sounds very exciting, and you should pace yourself very slowly. But if you don't work quickly, people literally fall asleep. And I think we do between 60 and 100 lots an hour, which is a pretty fast pace. And so we tend to start the sales at about 11 o'clock in the morning, and they should be over by lunchtime.
980. Thank you. Lot 8. Just for change, another Galleon Lalou.
And considerable interest on this as well. £2,000 is offered. 2,200, 2,500, 2,800, 3,000. Bidding 3,200, 3,500, 3,800. At £3,800, 4,000. Same buyer, 4,000. With you, sir, against the commission bid. 4-2 on the telephone, 4-5. No, 4-5. The bid's here at 4-5. 4 bidding, 4-8. The bidding does slow down because sometimes we have banks of telephones where people are ringing from abroad instead of actually being present at the sale. 5-8. 6,000. If you go to auction, there is the excitement of competition. If you have one person that's interested in your object, it will almost certainly go for the reserve price because there's only one bid. But if there's two people, anything could happen. And that's the excitement. £7,200. Thank you very much. 281 again.
Items at an auction have a reserve price, the minimum price that the vendor wants to receive.
And, as we saw, there can be a lot of competition in the bidding.
Everything goes at a fantastic speed because, as Mark said,
if you don't work quickly, people fall asleep.
Let's finish with 2 pieces of advice from Mark. First, what should you do if you think you have a valuable antique at home?
If you find a picture or any antique which you are not certain of, or indeed you don't know its value, do bring it into us. I think a lot of people are frightened about coming into Christie's, or indeed coming into any sort of establishment. They don't want to appear foolish. But you must come in, because if you don't ask, you'll never know whether the picture on the wall or in the attic is valuable.
29. Again, £3,000 is off.
And what should we buy at an auction?
You should buy what you like, and if you enjoy it, then you're lucky, and if it goes up in value, you're even luckier.
Mark had some good advice for Kevin. He said you should take your antiques to be valued. And the reason?
If you don't ask, you'll never know.
Okay, I'll take it to Christie's right away.
What will you do if they say it's very valuable?
I'll sell it.
Good.
Unless my family thinks it's a bad idea.
I hope they think it's a good idea. Goodbye.
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 Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Today we talk about people who've managed to do something against the odds.
People who've had difficulties but have still been successful.
People like this man, Mike Haynes, who works as an instructor in wheelchair sports.
What sort of people achieve things against the odds?
I think they're people who refuse to let their problems control their lives.
That's right. They decide to face their difficulties or disabilities. Their disabilities don't prevent them from doing what they want to do.
To me, they're people who try to do something they can be proud of, and they keep trying to do it in spite of their problems. They try to do something they can be proud of. They try to do something, and they keep trying to do it in spite of their problems. They keep trying to do it.
Is there something that you've done that you're very proud of?
Actually, 2 things. One is completing college. The second would be becoming a certified interpreter for the deaf, because I taught myself sign language.
I've raised 3 wonderful children.
I'm very proud of still being in football after 15 years.
I was in school play last year, and I'm proud of that.
I've written a book with a colleague, and I'm quite proud of it. It's quite nice to see it in people's houses. You say, gosh, I wrote that.
The St. David's Rehabilitation Center in Austin, Texas, provides help for people who are confined to wheelchairs. Mike Haynes teaches fitness at the Rehabilitation Center. What does his work and the work of the center involve?
Well, St. David's is a rehabilitation center for people who have had injuries and who are getting rehabilitated to get back into everyday life and back to the community. Wheelchair sports is based under therapeutic recreation. It's getting people back to what they did before in life. I run a fitness center for people with disabilities. It's specifically designed for people with disabilities. It's one of 3 in the country. I set people up with individualized weight training programs to increase their strength more functionally, to get them more independent in life. The key to independence once you're disabled is strength.
Ready, let's go.
That was a half? What? That was a hair and a half, huh? I thoroughly enjoy my work. It's not even work to me. It's a lot of fun.
Mike clearly enjoys doing his job, and it's a job that involves many things.
It involves helping people, people with disabilities. It involves training people so they can do things for themselves. It involves a lot of encouragement, and that's perhaps the most important of all.
This was how Mike expressed his feelings about his job.
I thoroughly enjoy my work. It's a lot of fun.
We've heard Mike talking about his work in the rehabilitation centre, and we've seen him working with disabled people. Now we're going to see him taking part in sporting activities in his free time. Let's find out what sports he plays.
I play wheelchair tennis. I'm a nationally ranked wheelchair tennis player. I travel all around the nation playing wheelchair tennis.
There you go. Shot. I got it.
I play wheelchair basketball. We travel around the nation playing wheelchair basketball. Wheelchair basketball is just like college basketball. We use the same rules that they use. We use a standard basketball court. Wheelchair sports is designed to keep the essence of the sport so that you're playing the same sport that you were before. I'm a scuba diver. I take a yearly trip to Bonaire in the Netherlands Antilles to scuba dive. A lot of quadriplegics go scuba diving. They may not even be able to brush their teeth in the morning, but they can scuba dive. It takes you out of your wheelchair and it frees you from gravity and allows you to roam as an able-bodied person. when you're looking at the coral, you're sitting there and looking at the micro view of things. You can sit there and look at one patch of coral, and you may be looking at something and not even see it. If you take an experienced diver down with you, he can go in and pull things out and show you little nudibranchs and little Christmas tree worms and all sorts of neat things that you don't even see. It was one of the things that I've done since my injury that I did not do before. It was like a great accomplishment. I was really scared.
Mike enjoys teaching. He enjoys playing basketball and tennis.
And he enjoys scuba diving in the Caribbean. This is how he described the experience of swimming near coral reefs.
It takes you out of your wheelchair. It frees you from gravity. You may be looking at something and not even see it. Looking at, but not seeing. Mike says that you need an expert to help you see the marine life moving around near the coral reefs.
Mike Haynes is an extraordinary man, especially when you consider what happened to him. One night, Mike was driving home with some friends and got into an argument with another driver at some traffic lights. Mike drove off, but the man followed him. Eventually, Mike got out of his car to see what the man wanted. This is what happened next.
I walked towards him, held up my hands and said, you know, hey, what's the matter? And he pulled out a .357, and as I turned to run, thinking the whole time that he was not going to shoot me, he did shoot me. While I was on the ground, he shot at me again. I lifted up. I was instantly paralyzed. I lifted up, and the next bullet went underneath me. I dragged myself behind a car, and then he laughed and drove off. He's serving 20 years for attempted murder in Huntsville, which is a penitentiary here in Texas. The next year I spent 11 months and 2 weeks in the hospital. I went through numerous operations, 14 in all. And then about a year and a half later, I went through a deep depression where I thought of myself as half a man, half a freak. You know, I didn't think I was a human being. You lose a part of yourself, and you remember how you were before, and you just don't feel the same. There's a lot of things that you miss, but then I didn't know all the opportunities that were open to me at the time. And I basically had to reinvent the wheel. There were other people doing the same thing I was doing out there, but they were in different parts of the country. I had to learn everything by myself. I had to learn how to drive. I had to, all the resources and things that were available, there was nothing standard. There was no information available. So I had to go out there and find all this information. And so now I want to be there for somebody. I want to be a resource for these people. So once they get hurt, they don't have to go through what I did. They don't have to go through 6 or 7 years of not knowing all this different information. I want to catch them right when they get here to the rehabilitation center and tell them to show them films of people doing great things, achieving things, so that they can set their sights early in life once they're hurt, and not have to go through that deep depression that I went through. I mean, I'm sure they're still going to go through depression, but I don't want it to be as bad as mine was.
It goes without saying that life was very difficult for Mike after the terrible things that happened to him.
He had to learn how to deal with everything in his daily life in a different way. Or, as he said,
I had to reinvent the wheel, start again from the beginning.
In spite of his terrible ordeal, Mike has a very positive attitude to his life and to his work.
He wants to help people with similar problems to participate in the activities that he has learnt.
I want to be a resource for people who arrive at the rehabilitation center.
We send our best wishes to Mike and everyone at the rehabilitation centre.
And we wish them every success with the work that they're doing.
That's all for now. Goodbye.
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 Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Today, we look at different cultures.
And what happens when people move from one country to another.
And we meet this woman, Joan Tull, who lives in England but will soon be moving to another country. You've moved to another country, haven't you, Kevin?
That's right. I came to Britain a year ago. A lot of things are different here. British food is different, but I'm used to it now. And here in Britain, they drive on the left. I'm getting used to that. But the weather. The sun doesn't shine much in Britain. I still can't get used to the weather. British food? I'm used to it now. I'm getting used to driving in Britain. British weather? I can't get used to that.
Winter's coming.
Yes.
It'll be cold.
I know. I hate being cold. I'll never get used to winter.
I've got an idea. Why don't we go to Australia?
Australia? Where's Australia?
Down there.
How far is it?
It's not far. Come on.
Okay.
Just think. This time tomorrow we'll be sitting in the sun. We'll be lying on the beach. We'll be Australia.
Already? It's still cold. And the sun isn't shining.
Yes, Australia's just like home.
This time tomorrow, we'll be sitting in the sun. We'll be sitting. We will be sitting. This time tomorrow, we'll be sitting in the sun. What will you be doing this time tomorrow?
I'll be at home watching television.
I will hopefully be having lunch.
At this time tomorrow, I will be sitting down in my office.
I shall be having a meeting with colleagues.
I'll be on a train to Leeds.
I'll be sleeping.
And what will you be doing in 10 years' time?
In 10 years' time, I hope I'll be living somewhere else in Europe.
I will be working somewhere.
In 10 years' time, I may be thinking about retiring.
Hopefully, in 10 years, I will be picking up a couple of kids from kindergarten or something.
I really don't know what I'll be doing in 10 years' time at all.
If my plans go correctly, I shall have retired from being a headmistress and I shall be teaching my subject again to students who want to learn it.
This time tomorrow, I'll be working here. But this time next year, I'll be back in the United States, in California. I'll be living in California. I'll be driving on the right. And I'll be eating American food. It'll be good, but I'll miss some things about England.
VSO, Voluntary Service Overseas, is a British organisation which trains people to work in other countries. Joan Tull, who lives in London, is a new VSO volunteer. Let's find out where she'll be going and what she'll be doing.
I'll be going to Zimbabwe to quite a large village school. And I'll be teaching English to 16-year-olds up to O-level, and I think I'll be a form teacher to 12 and 13-year-olds. I'll be staying for 2 years minimum, and there's a possibility of having that extended to 3 or 4 years.
What will Joan have to get used to?
I'll have to get used to a whole series, a whole raft of different working conditions. I'm used to working in quite a high-tech sort of industry that's got lots of machinery and everything, and I'm going to be going to a place that has no machinery apart from a typewriter, has no electricity at all, no photocopiers, all the things that you take for granted, they just won't be there anymore. So I'm going to have to get used to that sort of thing, really. I'll be staying near the school, which is called Kawandera, in quite a small village. It's amid sort of farmers generally. It's quite near to a sort of small town, but it's quite rural itself, and I'll be staying in a teacher's house, living with 2 or 3 other Zimbabwean teachers. I'll have to get used to not having the variety of different foods that you have here, like 20 different varieties of breakfast cereal and all the food that you could possibly want and can think of, you can have here. And the range of food there is much smaller. I have to get used to getting water from a borehole, not having electricity, which means gas lamps in the evening, which means the difficulty of preparing for the next day's lessons in poor light, different ways of getting your clothes washed, how you make your own entertainment in the evenings, because I'm used to coming home and watching television and, you know, phoning your friends and listening to music and that sort of thing. And there'll be sort of quite big differences like that I'll have to get used to.
No, I had to have 8, I must have had more than 12 actually. I had 8 different sorts of courses of injections.
I'll miss shopping for clothes in my favourite clothes stores, and I'll miss seeing my friends after work and going to the cinema and going to a club, going to parties. An endless list of things that I can think of that I do without thinking about it, really, that I'm going to miss.
Joan described what she'll be doing when she goes to Zimbabwe.
She'll be teaching English. She'll be living in a teacher's house with 2 or 3 Zimbabwean teachers.
Joan realizes that life will be very different from what she's used to.
She'll have to get used to different working conditions.
And of course, there are things that she'll miss about home.
She'll miss shopping for clothes. She'll miss seeing her friends.
Joan told us about some of the things she'll miss. But what will be the biggest problem for her?
I think there'll be quite a lot of cultural differences, and those are going to be the most difficult things to get used to, because physical things I think you can adapt to really quickly. I think a different way of looking at the role of women in society is going to be quite difficult, because I'm used to saying exactly what I think about everything, and I'm just going to have to learn to keep quiet about things. But the problem with that is that I can see why you have to do that, but then if quite a big part of yourself is to kind of not like injustices or whatever it is and to say what you think, then how much is it that you're kind of changing yourself as a person and as a personality? And maybe I'll get there and I'll find that, you know, it simply is not a problem at all.
What's the training like for VSO?
What we've got here is a sort of mishmash of the reasons why you're becoming a volunteer, yeah? And what I wanted to do was kind of look at the pictures you had in your head, because they overlap with your expectations, with what you expect to get out of it.
In terms of formal training before I go, I'll be doing 2 or 3 weekend courses. One will be about development issues, asking you questions about why it is that you want to do VSO. And there's going to be one that's going to be really concrete about how you teach English as a foreign language, or English in Zimbabwe.
Why did she want to do it?
I always wanted to do something that was about helping people and feeling that what you did was important to people and that it mattered. So that's the basic reason why I'll be going to do VSO, I think. I'm quite looking forward to going to a completely different environment that's different on all sorts of levels, in terms of the culture, in terms of the standard of living. I'll be quite interested to just find out how a whole different set of people live. I'm looking forward to not being in England because I'm tired of it. I'm looking forward to hot, sunny weather. I'll be quite interested to see how I fit into the new job. Just a whole new life, really, just suddenly kind of will open up.
S-Y-R-I-N-G-E-S. Is that correct? Yes? Good. Right, now let's work at putting these into indirect or reported speech.
It's a bit dangerous because I don't know how I'm going to cope with it. But that's all part of it. It's all part of kind of, you know, saying, my God, wasn't I? Wasn't I brave for once in my life? And I'll get to 30 and I'll look back and I'll be able to say, I think, God, you know, for once in my life, I did something that was just a bit unusual and a bit different.
Joan thinks there might be 3 big problems for her.
Cultural differences.
The completely different standard of living.
And the different role that women have in Zimbabwean society.
But there are also things that Joan is looking forward to.
She's looking forward to going to a completely different environment.
And she's looking forward to hot, sunny weather.
We all wish Joan the best of luck with her voluntary service in Zimbabwe.
Yes. Think of all the sunshine, the different way of life.
It obviously reminds Kevin of home.
What? Oh, yes.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Today, we look at mysteries, things that we can't explain.
And we talk to this man, Rick Turner, an archaeologist who will try to explain the mystery of a 2,000-year-old man.
There are so many things that we can't explain. Do you know Stonehenge? It's a huge and very old stone circle in the south of England. Some of its stones came from 300 kilometres away. And that's one of the mysteries about Stonehenge. How were those huge stones brought there? Do you know, David?
No, no idea.
They might have come by boat.
Perhaps. And what about the Marie Celeste?
The ship?
Yes. In 1872, a ship called the Marie Celeste was found in the Atlantic with nobody on board. The question is, what could have happened?
I suppose pirates could have attacked it.
Maybe. And what about the dinosaurs?
What's the mystery about the dinosaurs?
Well, they lived on Earth for 150 million years. Then they disappeared, quite suddenly. Why?
Perhaps there was a change in climate.
Or there may have been a natural disaster, like a great flood or an earthquake.
It's a mystery. How were the stones brought to Stonehenge?
They might have come by boat.
What could have happened to the Marie Celeste?
Pirates could have attacked it.
And what happened to the dinosaurs?
There may have been a natural disaster.
Why do you think the dinosaurs disappeared?
The dinosaurs probably disappeared because their environment changed and they were unable to cope.
I believe there are many theories as to why the dinosaurs disappeared. I think volcanic activity is one possibility.
I like the catastrophe theory that a big meteor struck the Pacific Ocean and threw the world into darkness.
I think the dinosaurs disappeared because there was a massive ice age and they didn't survive the massive ice age.
Oh, I believe dinosaurs disappeared because they were hit by an asteroid.
Now, a different sort of mystery. One for Sherlock Holmes to solve.
Well, Watson, how did the thief enter the room?
Through the window, Holmes. Look.
That's not very likely, Watson.
Why not, Holmes?
Because the broken glass is on the outside. The thief must have gone out through the window. He or she must have come in through the door.
Holmes, you're brilliant.
Not really, Watson. Just intelligent. Come on, let's go and find our thief.
Sherlock Holmes has solved another mystery, or he thinks he has. He was sure of two things: how the thief came in and how the thief went out.
The thief must have gone out through the window. He or she must have come in through the door.
Lindow Moss is an area in the north of England where there is a lot of peat. Peat is a kind of soil with very special qualities of preservation. In the peat of Lindow Moss was found a body, which has come to be called Lindow Man. It's very well preserved and it's about 2,000 years old. The man who found the body was archaeologist Rick Turner, and he's been trying to solve the mystery of Lindow Man.
The story begins in the peat depot, which is just off the site where we're standing, where the men one day found what turned out to be a well-preserved human foot. I got to hear about this as the local archaeologist responsible for the area, and came out the next day, out onto the bog just behind where we're standing, and found what turned out to be the rest of Lindow Man. We came here, and what we excavated was the peat in which the body lay. We didn't, at that stage, want to uncover the body, so when we came here, we actually lifted a block of peat, and we weren't exactly certain of what might have been in there. What survives is not everything. What survives are particular types of robust tissue, the skin, the hair, the fingernails, the parts of the bone that are tissue, not made of calcium. So you only have a percentage of the body surviving. But they're the types of body which, under other circumstances, you would not normally find. And as a result, you can tell all sorts of things about the body that in other circumstances you would not be able to do. We could see exactly what he looked like, the fact he was bearded, the fact his hair was neatly trimmed, perhaps with a form of shears rather than scissors. It was before scissors were invented. We found evidence of the stomach, and the remains in the stomach tells us what he might have eaten for his last meal or his last 2 meals, so we could reconstruct that very accurately.
From the evidence, can we tell how Lindow-Man might have died?
The evidence for how Lindow-Man died is very clear, and you can reconstruct the events quite closely. What seems to have happened first is that from the 2 fractures that we found on the top of the head, it seems that he might have been hit by an axe or a weapon of some sort that certainly made him unconscious and perhaps killed him. Not happy with that, the people responsible then tied a strong cord around the neck, tied it at the back of the neck, perhaps inserted a stick through the cord, twisted the stick until the neck was broken and the breathing cut off. Finally, from the evidence of a cut underneath the neck, we think he might have been bled, and the blood would have poured forth from the body onto the ground. So we have a very complicated and perhaps ritualistic death.
What a way to die. What was it? They hit him on the head, strangled him, then cut his throat?
As Rick said, it was a complicated and perhaps a ritualistic killing.
But isn't it amazing how much they can discover from their research?
Yes, it is. And they found out a lot about how he might have lived as well as how he might have died. So who was Lindow-Man? And why was he killed?
From all the evidence we've been able to gather from the scientific analyses and the detailed tests and the studies we've made, we can begin to build a picture of who Lindow-Man was, how he lived, and how he died. He was a man, we know that for certain. He was perhaps 25, likely to be of medium build. He must have been someone who didn't work in the fields at the end of his life. He had beautifully smooth fingernails. He might have been a bard or perhaps a warrior or even a priest. He might have been the victim of an attack. Someone might have killed him and chose to bury him in a peat bog, so the evidence would never be found. It's just possible he might have died in some accidental way, and the wounds were caused by a variety of other incidents, attacked by foxes or something of that sort. Or, given the very complicated nature of how he died, the fact he was naked when buried, you might try to explain it as some form of ritual. But there are many forms of ritual, and you've got, therefore, to take the evidence further. Perhaps the ritual is religious. It might have been a civil execution, perhaps for some form of crime, or perhaps a prisoner who was being killed. So from the evidence we have, you can build a wide variety of explanations. Our job is to try and weigh that evidence and suggest which is the most likely.
Rick is certain that they found the body of a man. Other things are less certain, but we can make deductions from the evidence. Deductions like these.
Lindow-Man had very smooth fingernails, so he can't have worked in the fields. His nails were too perfect. He can't have worked with his hands. He must have worked with his head. So, what could he have been? Well, he might have been a poet. Who knows? He may have been a warrior, a soldier of some sort. He could have been a priest, sacrificed by other priests.
There are many possible explanations for why Lindo Man died, but which theory does Rick prefer?
First of all, he must decide what date he might have died. We think it's most likely that he was Iron Age or died just after the Romans had invaded. If so, he was Celtic. He was a member of a Celtic tribe who would have lived here in Cheshire at the time. The Celts had a priestly class called the Druids, and we know from classical descriptions that the Druids indulged in human sacrifice. Lindo Man, therefore, might be the results of one of these sacrifices. As this phenomenon occurs widely over Europe at this particular time, I think we've got to look at some sort of religious practice that leads to these bodies being found in the peat bogs, not only here, but in countries like Germany, Denmark and Holland.
So, now we know what happened to Lindo Man.
Well, we know what might have happened to him. He might have been a human sacrifice.
Yes, part of a religious ritual or ceremony. Well, that's all from us. But let's leave the last word to Rick Turner.
We can reconstruct his appearance very accurately. We have a face from the past that we can look at and see that perhaps the past is not so far from our present time, that he looks much as you and I do, and he would have been walking here around 2,000 years ago. He almost certainly comes from the local area. Why he came to be in the bog is the mystery that everyone can speculate about.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Today we talk about the changing world. We try to imagine what the world will be like in the year 2025.
And we talk to this man, Bruce Sterling, who's a science fiction writer.
What will the world be like in the year 2025? What will have happened? What do you think, Natalie?
I think the population of the world will have increased, and the major cities will have become much bigger.
What about you, Kevin?
Well, I hope that a lot of things will have improved.
Such as?
I hope we'll have found the answer to our traffic problems. And I hope that doctors will have discovered more ways to cure serious illnesses and diseases.
And I hope that people will have learned how to live in peace.
So, what do Natalie and Kevin think or hope will have happened by the year 2025?
The population of the world will have increased. And all the world's major cities will have become much bigger.
I hope that we will have found the answer to our traffic problems. I hope that doctors will have discovered more ways to cure serious illnesses and diseases.
But do we really know what will happen in the next 30 years? Do we even know what will happen in the next 30 days? What will you have done by this time next month?
I hope I will have been on holiday to Cuba.
I will have directed my first play.
By this time next month, I'll have packed my stuff to go to Zimbabwe. I'll have said goodbye to everybody. I'll have given in my notice at work.
I will have appointed 17 new teachers.
I will probably have gone bankrupt unless I get a job in the next 2 weeks.
I will have had my wisdom teeth out.
Oh, I will have turned 30. I'm turning 30 on Friday the 13th, so that's a big monumental occasion.
She's a very nice baby.
She's an extraordinary baby. Extremely intelligent.
Really?
Oh, yes. She is going to be an amazing person.
Oh.
Yes, indeed. By the time she's 3 years old, my little girl would have learnt to read and write. She'll have finished school by the time she's 11. And by the time she's 15, she will have graduated from university. And by the time she's 21, she will have become Prime Minister.
And by 10 o'clock tonight, I still won't have had any breakfast.
The baby had a prediction about the very near future.
By 10 o'clock tonight, I still won't have had any breakfast. Science fiction writers often write about how the world will change in the future. Bruce Sterling is a science fiction writer. He has a lot of ideas about how the world will have changed by the year 2025. Before we hear that, let's find out something about his work and his interests.
Oh, I am an author and journalist, and I am a genre writer. I write science fiction novels. I'm interested in the sciences, and I'm interested in conveying to people what they really mean. I like to carry scientific thought into the fabric of daily life. I'm not interested in the sciences in the abstract. I want to talk and think about how they actually affect people in their daily lives. The way they dress, the way they work, what they do, how they react, how they live, how they die, how they eat, how they suffer. I'm interested in the human impact of technological innovation. Now, I work at home, and I work on a computer. So I spend all day in front of a screen. And then to relax, I will often move into the other room and approach another screen, this time the television screen. But with one, I sit right before it, close enough to touch it. And with the other, I sit across the room and I address it with a remote control. Now these two screens have the same images, and they will increasingly share data. The question is, under what circumstances will I sit before them, and under which will I, lie down before them? And I think you will find the two merging as time goes on. You will find yourself doing more and more work on your television, and more work that's almost indistinguishable from play in a lot of ways. Already I find many of my social relations, the way I talk to people, is very electronic. It takes place through networks, it takes place through telephones, through fax machines. Eventually I will be seeing them on the television, and it will be difficult for me to tell work from play and work from parties.
Bruce Sterling is a science fiction writer who's interested in the impact, the effect, of science and technology on our daily lives.
Like a lot of people, Bruce works all day in front of a computer screen. And when he's not working, he watches television.
And he predicts that soon our telephones will have video screens.
He says it will be difficult for him to tell work from play, to distinguish work from play.
Let's hear what he thinks the world will be like in the year 2025. Which will be the most powerful countries, the most powerful nations in the world?
I suspect that by the year 2025, we may have forgotten all about the concept of nations. I really believe that we will have moved to the concept of trading blocks by 2025. And it's true that nationalism seems surprisingly powerful at this point in time, but I suspect that that won't last. That we will have moved to a society where national boundaries and even cultural boundaries are increasingly meaningless. They'll have less and less to do with people's loyalties, less and less to do with people's daily lives.
What about the United Nations organization?
I suspect that by 2025, the United Nations will have become a much more powerful force, but perhaps not under the same name. I think we will see some kind of environmental police force, an international force which has the power to interfere in local affairs if it feels that it serves the interest of the global environment.
And what will the future be like for Europe?
I think that Europe has a great deal to teach the world, possibly, probably more so at this point in time than the United States or even the East Asian groups. Europe has been a source of a lot of trouble in the 20th century, and it's nationalist trouble and political trouble. If the Europeans can learn to overcome their own tribalism, then perhaps the rest of the world can learn. On the other hand, if the Europeans cannot do this, then I foresee very great trouble, probably another world war, perhaps more savage than the earlier ones. Not a nuclear world war, but a war over resources, basically a continent-sized Yugoslavia. And that's not a pleasant prospect. But I don't believe that will, in fact, happen. I think the Europeans will have their open borders. I think they will have a one European currency. And I think they have a good chance of becoming the single most powerful trading bloc of the three I see coming.
Let's listen again to two of Bruce's predictions.
We may have forgotten about the concept of nations. The United Nations will have become a much more powerful force.
We've heard what Bruce Sterling thinks will have happened to the nations of the world by the year 2025. What does he think will have happened to our industries?
I believe we will have stopped wasting so many of our resources. I believe we will have installed much more recycling. I believe that our industries will have become much cleaner. They will have been redesigned from top to bottom to save energy, to save resources, to stop pollution. I believe we will take much more care about what we put into our environment in the way of chemicals and toxins. I believe also that our eating habits will change drastically. We will be eating material in 2025 that would be basically unrecognizable to anyone today. I think there will be a great vogue for artificial foods because they're cheap to make. I believe practices like slaughtering livestock for food will still be around, but they will have been abandoned in great extent, not because of moral reasons, but basically for financial reasons. There's simply not going to be room for enormous herds of cattle.
What about people in the year 2025? Will we be better or worse?
We will have become more advanced, but we will not have become any more moral. I think we will still see the same hypocrisy, the same greed, the same basic animal traits that have always propelled humanity. But on the other hand, I don't believe we will have become any worse. And perhaps our increasing knowledge may bring us a little bit more wisdom.
So, in some ways, Bruce Sterling is optimistic about the future.
Yes, he predicts that by 2025, we will have stopped wasting our resources and will be recycling more, using things again instead of throwing them away.
And he thinks that industries will have become much cleaner.
He also thinks that by 2025, we may have become a little wiser.
An optimistic thought to end the programme. Goodbye.
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 Hello.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome to the Last Look Ahead program.
Today, we ask the question, do you remember? And we're going to meet again some of the many people we've met in the series.
People like explorer Matt Dickinson, firefighter Chris Barr, registrar Norman Stevens, and many more.
But first, this.
Hello. Do you remember me? I'm Sherlock Holmes. Today I'm going to investigate what has happened to some of my friends from other programs. As soon as I find out, I'll tell you. This is where they make the cartoons. Let's see what's in here.
Do you remember me?
No.
I wanted a room for the night.
Oh, yes. And I gave him a room without a bed. Oh, yes, I remember. What's this?
Do you remember who I am?
Yes, you're an artist, aren't you?
Yes. And you remember why I was angry?
Because your model went to the hairdresser.
That's right, and I'm still angry.
Do you remember who lives here? Do you remember meeting her? Do you remember what she wanted to buy?
I wanted to buy a car.
That's right. And did you buy one?
Yes, but it was terrible. When I drove it, it fell to pieces. Just look at it now.
Well, we all hope that you enjoyed meeting us in Look Ahead. And now back to the studio. Bye.
Now we're going to meet again some of the people we've met in Look Ahead. First of all, explorer Matt Dickinson.
Do you remember how he compared the dangers of whitewater rafting and walking across the Namib Desert?
The river has a great deal of noise. There's the rushing of the water. There's the grinding and rumbling of great rocks, perhaps the size of a house, as they are pushed underneath the surface of the river downstream by the force of the water. But each place has its own dangers. The heat, the aridity, the all-embracing oven of the desert is just as dangerous as the savage forces of a whitewater river. But to be in that environment is a completely different experience, and it requires a completely different approach, both mentally and physically, in order to survive.
Do you remember Maureen Beaumont from the London Transport Lost Property Office?
Oh, yes. I remember her describing all the strange things people leave on buses and trains.
Handbags, purses, cameras, watches, you name it, somebody's lost it at some time or another. As you can see, this is some of the false teeth that we have handed in. I'm not quite sure what are tops and what are bottom sets, but probably enough musical instruments here to equip a small orchestra. A false hand. It's part of a skeleton. It's the leg part, I think. Quite a large theatrical sword. A stuffed eagle. Beautiful wedding dress.
Do you remember going to Universal Studios in Florida?
Yes, I do. And I remember Joyce Tullis and her family talking about what they liked best.
I preferred Earthquake to Ghostbusters. I preferred it primarily because I felt that the visual effects were much more creative and authentic.
San Francisco, I'm not sure what if it said train station, I would understand a lot better. Right.
The rides were incredible, but the best part of the day for me, the thing I liked the most, was sharing the excitement and the enjoyment of the day with my family.
Now, Norman Stevens, a London registrar who has married more people than he can remember.
What? Married? Oh, I see what you mean.
I give this ring.
I give this ring.
As a symbol.
As a symbol.
Of our marriage.
Of our marriage.
And as a token.
And as a token.
Of my love.
Of my love.
Having made your declarations in front of your witnesses, I'm very pleased to say you are now by law husband and wife.
You don't have to look happy this time, get on. That's it.
Even though I personally have married about 10,000 couples, what I have to remind myself all the time is that for them, it's their first time, and for them, it's a very special day.
One of my favourite moments was our visit to New Mexico.
Yes. As soon as I saw the scenery and the sunshine, I understood why so many people take their holidays there.
John Egan explained its attraction.
I think the reason that people come to the Southwest is not only because of the scenery itself, the vast spaces and the beautiful colors of the country, but also the important history and the legends that surround the Southwest, insofar as cowboys are concerned and Indians and so on. This is a uniquely American sort of legend, but at the same time, it's something that I think people throughout the world really identify with and love to be a part of.
Do you remember going to the Royal College of Art and meeting Katie Burnell?
Yes, I do.
Ah, well, can you remember what she was working on?
Oh, no, I can't.
Well, let's find out.
I'm working on a project at the moment which is basically making a large piece of sculpture. I've been working on it now since the beginning of September. And I started the project by making large collages from drawings of myself. And the sculpture is made up of a pair of arms and a pair of legs, and they're very large and curvaceous. They're going to be in very, very bright colours. And they will be set against a stripy coloured background.
Christine Barr is a firefighter in California. She told us what happened when she was called to a huge fire in the city of Oakland.
While we were on Broadway Terrace, we were asked to fight an attic fire in one of the homes. After we made entry into the house, we climbed up a narrow staircase into a small child's room. And I only had a second to look around me before the room filled with smoke and it was too hot to stand up. So we backed out down the staircase. As we were coming down the stairs, I saw photographs hanging on the wall, and I felt at that point that these people were going to lose their home. And I thought that if I could take the pictures, they would at least have something. So I snatched them off the wall, and I grabbed a towel, and I wrapped them in a towel, and I hunched over them so that they wouldn't get wet, and I put them down in the neighbor's yard.
Do you remember our visit to Cherry Trees Farm with all the school children?
The majority of educational visits to Cherry Trees Farm are from school children aged between 4 and 10 who are from city areas.
Welcome to Cherry Trees Farm. Now, a visit to Cherry Trees Farm is not the usual sort of visit, because where practical, I ask you to help me.
After they've had their lunch, they then go to collect eggs, which to many is one of the best things they do on the farm, because a hen often will be sitting in the box where the egg is laid, and the child must slip its hand under the hen and actually touch a warm egg.
I got it, Alex. I got to send the
Finally, do you remember Sashi Ahluwalia? Do you, Kevin?
Yes, he runs a fabric, doesn't he, in London?
Yes, he does. But can you remember how many other members of his family work in the shop?
Basically the whole family. My father, my mother's sister, my brother, his wife, my wife, and my sister. My father generally keeps an eye on the whole business. My mother, my sister, my sister-in-law, my wife, they sell the fabrics to the customers. My brother and myself, we generally do the office work. We actually go out buying fabrics, but we also get involved in selling the fabrics and running the whole shop. My parents come from the north of India, the Punjab. The next generation, we were all born in East Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, and our children were all born in London.
Well, I'm afraid that brings us to the end of Look Ahead.
We hope that you've learnt a lot of English with us.
And we hope that you've enjoyed watching the programs as much as we've enjoyed making them.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.